Believe it or not, the NBA has technically played a game outside. Matter of fact, the NBA has had a total of 4 games outside, and the Phoenix Suns have appeared in all of them. The first game was a preseason matchup way back in 1972 between the Phoenix Suns and Kareem's Milwaukee Bucks. It was the first ever outdoor game and was being played in Puerto Rico. Obviously, with the game being so old, there's not that much information on it other than the fact that the Suns beat the Bucks 116-103. Although it was the first NBA outdoor game, it would also be the last. Until 36 years later, the legendary Dick Heckman, who was part owner of the Phoenix Suns, said, "What if we did it again?" He was a businessman at the end of the day, and he knew what was gonna sell. The 36-year hiatus was mainly due to exactly what we all assumed, and that's weather. It's hard to predict how the weather's going to be on game day several weeks before it's even played. Eventually though, on October 11th, 2008, during the preseason, the Suns would go on to play the Denver Nuggets at Indian Wells Tennis Garden in California, which you would think would be a perfect location for the game, but unfortunately the day they played, it was around 60 degrees with winds up to 15 miles per hour. So obviously everyone was saying they were missing shots because of the wind and that they were cold, which is exactly what you would think would happen when you play outside. It really might not sound that bad until you see what Shaq had to say about it. It gets even worse though. The Nuggets would go on to win the game with a final score of just 77-72. It's a preseason game, so players aren't trying as hard, but both teams shot a combined 3 for 27 from the three-point line. Steve Nash would lead the Suns in points with just 16, and JR would lead Denver with just 12 total points. To top it off, the Nuggets shot 36.3% as a team, and the Suns were even worse, shooting 31.6%. Although the game itself was absolutely atrocious, it still did really well, bringing in tons of viewers. This would cause the NBA to try it again the following year. On October 10th, 2009, the Suns would take on the Warriors that just drafted Stephen Curry with their only pick. They would meet at the same place as last year at Indian Wells. The weather was basically perfect compared to last year. It was in the low 70s and there really wasn't much wind at all. The Warriors would go on to beat the Suns 104-101. Steph Curry would score 18 points, while Anthony Morrow had 30 and Corey Maggette had 17, both coming off the bench. Channing Frye would lead the Suns with 19 points, along with 16 from Grant Hill. And since the weather was way better than last year, you would assume the ball went in way more. But the Warriors shot 42.2% as a team, and the Suns shot 40.4%. Either way, it was still a pretty entertaining close game, especially for the preseason. And then for the fourth and final NBA outdoor game at Indian Wells, the Suns would play the Dallas Mavericks. This time, the weather was completely different than the other games. The game was set to tip off at 9:30 p.m. with the temperature being at almost 90 degrees with little to no wind. The Suns would go on to beat the Mavericks 98-90. Grant Hill would lead the Suns with 16 points, but also had 4 other players in double figures, while JJ Barea led the Mavericks with just 13. Also, Dirk decided to sit this game out because he was worried the outdoor game would negatively affect his jump shot before going into the regular season. Both teams shot 39.5% for the game, and in the first half, the Mavericks shot just 31%. In basically every game, the shooting wasn't the best, but you also have to factor in that this is preseason. Some players just aren't ready yet, and others are still getting used to their new team. The NCAA would have a Carrier Classic, which was a game the NCAA would host on a Navy aircraft carrier. The reason they stopped doing it, go figure, the weather. Not only do you have to make sure it's nice enough to play, but you also have to be extra careful because it's, surrounded by water. But if the NBA has had outdoor games already, then why don't they bring it back? The answer is there's just too much work that has to go in it. Other companies like WWE most of the time have their biggest pay-per-view outside, and they even had to delay the show due to weather as recently as 2021. The preseason is one of the earliest scheduled games, so it's easy to pick dates based on weather versus something like the All-Star game. So the reason the NBA doesn't do outdoor games is basically the go-to common sense answer. With that being said, I would still love to see a return to outdoor games, and regardless of what happens on the court, it would still do really well. But that's all I have for the video. If you think outdoor games should come back or have a solution to the weather problem, definitely leave a comment down below. Also, don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for videos just like this one.